Hello and welcome to the Healing Codes podcast. I'm Julie Williams, your host, and this is a space where science meets spirit and where we explore the deeper intelligence behind healing and where you're invited to reconnect with the wisdom that's already within you. In today's episode, we're exploring how healing begins to shift when we move beyond a purely physical understanding of the body and start to include the full landscape of who we are. Inside this episode, you'll discover why traditional science isn't wrong, but incomplete when it comes to understanding healing, what the body matrix is, and how your physical, emotional, mental, energetic, ancestral, and spiritual layers are constantly interacting, how different frequencies of your being influence your thoughts, feelings, and health, and why symptoms and patterns are not problems to fix, but intelligent messages asking to be understood. There comes a moment for many of us on the healing path where something begins to shift. Not because science has failed us, but because we start to sense that what we have been taught as science might only be part of a much larger picture. And perhaps you felt this too, in your own way. That quiet knowing that there is something more going on beneath the surface of what can be measured, named, or diagnosed. For me, that wasn't about turning away from science. It was about allowing it to expand. My background is in molecular biology, where I was trained to understand the body through cells, pathways, and mechanisms, to look closely, to analyze, to find answers in what could be observed and repeated. And that lens is powerful, and it still is. But over time, working with people, sitting with real human experiences of illness, anxiety, and patterns that seem to repeat despite every effort to change them, I began to notice something that didn't quite fit within that model. Two people, for example, could be given the same diagnosis, the same treatment, and the same level of care, and yet their healing would unfold in completely different ways. Not just in outcome, but in direction, in depth, and meaning. And it starts to invite a question, doesn't it? What else is at play here? Because it begins to feel as though there are other forces involved, invisible perhaps, but very real in their effects. And this is where my understanding of science began to widen. Because when we look a little deeper, especially through the lens of quantum physics, we begin to see that reality is not only made up of solid, measurable matter, but of energy, of fields, of relationships, of information. That what we cannot see with our eyes can still be perceived, still be felt, and still be known. And that our attention, our awareness, even our relationship to what is happening, can influence the outcome in ways we are only just beginning to understand. So rather than leaving science behind, what began to emerge was a more expansive way of including it, one that honors what can be measured and also what can be sensed, what can be observed through instruments and what can be perceived through the intelligence of the body and a quiet language of intuition. And it is within this widening that consciousness medicine, the work that I developed and practiced, began to take shape. One of the simplest ways I found to share this is through what I call the body matrix. And you might like, just for a moment, to feel into this as you listen. Because when we slow down enough to notice, it becomes clear that you are not just a physical body moving around in the world. You are a living matrix of different layers of experience, all happening at once. There is, of course, your physical body, the tangible, biological aspect of you, with its tissues, its systems, and its rhythms. At the same time, there is your emotional body, the felt sense of your experience, the currents of feeling that move through you, sometimes gently, sometimes with intensity, sometimes in ways that are hard to put into words. Then there is your energetic body, more subtle, perhaps, but deeply familiar if you tune into it. That sense of expansion or contraction, of aliveness or depletion, that can shift even when nothing in your external world has changed. Then there is your ancestral body, the patterns, the loyalties, the imprints that do not begin with you, but that are nevertheless living through you. And beyond that, your spiritual body, your connection to something greater, to meaning, to purpose, to life itself. And what's important here is not just that these layers exist, but that they are in constant relationship with each other. They are not separate systems. They are a woven field. Sometimes it can be helpful to think of these layers in terms of frequency. We already understand, for example, that different brainwave states, beta, alpha, theta, delta, correspond to different ways of experiencing reality, different functions within the same body and mind. And in a similar way, we can begin to sense that these layers of our being also operate at different frequencies of vibration. The physical body tends to be slower, denser, changing over time. The emotional body can be more fluid, with feelings that arise and move, or at times become held or stuck. The energetic and spiritual layers often move in ways that don't follow linear time at all, yet still have a profound influence on how we feel and function. The ancestral body, that reaches the furthest depths of our soul, can sometimes feel dense or uplifting and supportive. And even though they move at different frequencies, they are continuously influencing one another. A thought can create an emotion. An emotion can impact the body. A family pattern can shape a belief. An energetic shift can bring a sense of ease where there was tension. It is all connected. And when we begin to see this, something starts to open. Because healing then is no longer just about fixing a problem in one place. It becomes about listening to the intelligence of the whole system. And this is something I have seen again and again in very real, very human ways. That nothing you are experiencing is random, and that even the patterns or symptoms that feel frustrating or even overwhelming are not without meaning. There is always a reason to some part of you, a deeper intelligence at play. For example, when working with people facing serious illness, even something like cancer, of course there is a very real physical process happening. And at the same time, when we begin to listen more deeply, we often find that something else has been trying to be heard for a very long time. Perhaps a life lived under constant stress, emotions that have been held in, unexpressed, a disconnection from the body's signals, a difficulty in receiving support, and sometimes a profound moment of awakening, a turning toward life that only becomes possible when faced with the reality of death. And within that, people begin to make different choices, to set boundaries, to feel again, to choose themselves in ways they may never have before. Not because they wanted the illness, but because something within them was asking for a change. And I see similar patterns in more everyday experiences. Let's take something like weight. On the surface, it can seem straightforward. Food, exercise, willpower. But when we listen more closely, a different picture often emerges. A need for safety. A way of creating a buffer between oneself and the world. A way of staying unseen or protected. Sometimes an inner dynamic where one part seeks comfort through food, while another part judges or criticizes the result. Or a way of feeling more grounded, more solid in a world that feels overwhelming. Or even a way of accessing moments of relief or pleasure when deep emotions feel too much to face. And when we begin to see it this way, these are not failures. They are intelligent strategies, adaptive responses that made sense at some point. And this is where healing begins to shift. Because if we try to remove the symptom without understanding what it is doing for us, the system will often resist. Not because something is wrong, but because something is being protected. So instead of asking, how do we get rid of it? We begin to ask a different kind of question. What is this trying to do for me? What is the benefit, even if I don't like the way it is showing up? And as we begin to listen in this way, something softens. Because when the underlying intention is seen and acknowledged, we are no longer fighting against ourselves. We are in relationship with ourselves. And from that place, something new becomes possible. We can begin to preserve what is needed: the safety, the connection, the relief, the belonging, while gently upgrading the way it is expressed. Because the symptom is never the goal. It is an attempt, a very intelligent attempt. So let me offer you a simple journaling process that you can come back to anytime something in your life feels frustrating, stuck, or hard to understand. Begin by identifying an experience, a pattern, or an issue in your life that you'd like to explore more deeply. Name it, honestly, just as it is. Now, answer this question. What good thing comes to me from having this experience? If a part of you is choosing this, what is that part trying to do for you? To help you grow, protect you from something, to motivate you? Now, knowing the intended positive outcome, what is it that you truly need or are seeking? Safety, connection, relief, motivation, grounding? Now, what are 3 new ways you can begin to create this outcome without struggle? For example, if it's safety, perhaps quiet, stillness, or time in nature. If it's motivation, perhaps a clear intention, a supportive mindset, focused energy. Let your answers be very practical, very simple, and easily integrated into your daily life. Now, choose one small step that you can take to begin creating this in a new way. And just take a moment to notice how this feels, because you may begin to see that nothing within you is working against you. There is always a part of you trying to help. And when that part is seen, understood, and included, something new becomes possible. And as you sit with this, you might begin to sense that what you've been experiencing isn't something to push away, but something to listen to more deeply. Because when we understand the intelligence behind what's happening, we open the door to a different kind of healing, one that works with us rather than against us. Tune in for the next episode where we'll take this a step further and move into a guided somatic experience where you can experience these ideas within your body across the different layers of your being and begin to feel what becomes possible from that place. So if you'd like to go deeper, I'll meet you there. Thanks for listening today. It was an honor to hold space for you. If you'd like to learn more about me and my work and my offerings, including one-to-one sessions and on-demand courses, please visit my website at www.consciousness-medicine.com, where you can also sign up for my free e-newsletter and stay connected on social media from the links on the homepage.